Prepare to rethink everything you thought you knew. This is Mind Benders, your source for the most mind-twisting facts that will expand your understanding of the world. Let's bend some minds.
The hook and the enigma. What if I told you that our timeline of technological progress is wrong? That the sleek, miniaturized gears inside a modern Swiss watch had a direct ancestor, not from the Renaissance, but from an age of myth and legend. Imagine an object so far ahead of its time that its discovery was like finding a jet engine in the tomb of Tutankhamun. This isn't science fiction. This is the story of a real artifact, an object that forces us to question everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. It is the story of a ghost from a lost technological future. Our journey begins not in a laboratory or a university, but in the turbulent waters of the Aegean Sea. The year is 1900. A group of Greek sponge divers, led by Captain Dimitrios Kontos, is forced by a violent storm to take shelter near the small remote island of Antikythera. When the storm subsides, they decide to dive in this new, unexplored location, hoping for a lucrative haul of sponges. One diver, Elias Stadiatis, surfaces in a state of terror, babbling about a horrifying heap of dead, naked people on the seabed. The captain, thinking the diver has succumbed to nitrogen narcosis, the rapture of the deep, dives down himself to verify the claim. What he finds is not a graveyard of bodies, but something far more astonishing: the remarkably preserved wreckage of an ancient Roman cargo ship, sunk nearly 2,000 years before. And among the treasures, the marble statues, the fine pottery, the glassware, was a single corroded lump of bronze, mistaken at first for a rock. It was brought to the surface, a forgotten piece of detritus from a forgotten world. For months, it sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, ignored. It was an ugly, calcified mass, about the size of a large dictionary, seemingly unremarkable. But history is full of secrets hiding in plain sight. And this unassuming lump of metal held a secret that would unravel our entire conception of ancient Greek genius. It was waiting for someone to look closer. The object was a paradox in a box. It was a silent testament to a level of knowledge the history books told us was impossible. What was this device? Who could have possibly conceived of it, let alone built it? The answer would take more than a century to uncover, and it would reveal a civilization far more advanced than we ever dared to imagine. The first clues emerge. For 2 years, the bronze lump sat in the museum, a puzzle no one was trying to solve. Then, on May 17, 1902, the artifact fractured. The archaeologist Valerios Stais was examining the museum's collection when he noticed the break. He peered inside the corroded shell, and his breath caught in his throat. Embedded within the rock-like concretion was a gear wheel, a perfectly formed, precisely toothed gear wheel. This was impossible. The consensus was that complex gear trains like this were a product of the great cathedral clocks of 14th century Europe. To find one in a 2nd century BC shipwreck was an anachronism of the highest order. It was like finding a smartphone charger among Paleolithic cave paintings. The discovery was met with skepticism. Many scholars dismissed it, suggesting it was some kind of modern clock that had simply fallen overboard and fused with the ancient wreckage. But one man refused to let the mystery go. That man was Derek de Sola Price, a brilliant physicist and historian of science from Yale University. Starting in the 1950s, Price became obsessed with the object, which was now being called the Antikythera Mechanism. He suspected it was more than just a simple clock. He believed it was an astronomical calculator, a mechanized model of the cosmos. Price subjected the corroded fragments to the most advanced imaging technology of his day, X-rays and gamma rays. What he found was staggering. Inside the fragments were not 1, not 5, but a complex system of at least 30 distinct gears. It was a labyrinth of bronze, a symphony of interlocking cogs and pinions, all arranged with a breathtaking mathematical precision. He discovered a sophisticated differential gear, a device so complex it was thought to have been invented by Charles Babbage in the 19th century, to power his analytical engines, the precursors to modern computers. And there was something else. Covering the outer plates of the device were inscriptions, thousands of characters of Koine Greek, inscribed in letters barely 2 millimeters high. It was a user's manual, written on the machine itself. The first clues were emerging, but they only deepened the paradox. This wasn't just a machine. It was a machine that came with instructions. It was designed to be used. But for what? The answer lay hidden in the silent dance of its phantom gears. Decoding the cosmos. The inscriptions, slowly and painstakingly deciphered over decades by teams of international scientists, were the key. They were an astronomical Rosetta Stone. They spoke of the sun, the moon, and the wanderers, the 5 planets visible to the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just telling time, it was modeling the heavens. On the front face, a large dial with concentric rings tracked the positions of the sun and moon through the 365-day Egyptian calendar and the 12 constellations of the zodiac. A turn of the single knob on the side of the device set the entire system in motion, the pointers gliding across the dial, representing the celestial ballet in real time or fast-forwarded into the future. It was an analog computer of the highest order. But its true genius lay on the back. 2 large spiral dials dominated the rear panel. Price and his successors discovered that these dials tracked complex astronomical cycles. One, the Metonic cycle, is a 19-year cycle that reconciles the solar year with the lunar months. This was essential for managing calendars. The other, the Saros cycle, is a period of just over 18 years that can be used to predict eclipses, both solar and lunar. Think about what this means. A Greek scientist, 2 centuries before the birth of Christ, could hold this device, turn a crank, and know the exact date and time of the next full moon. They could see when the next solar eclipse would plunge the world into darkness. They could align their civil and religious calendars with the unerring clockwork of the cosmos. This wasn't just observation. It was prediction. It was the power to know the future of the heavens. And the complexity required to achieve this is mind-bending. The moon, for instance, doesn't travel at a constant speed in its orbit. It speeds up and slows down. To account for this, the creator of the mechanism used a brilliant pin and slot system, where one gear drives another eccentrically, perfectly mimicking the moon's variable motion. This is a level of mechanical engineering and astronomical insight that, according to our historical narrative, simply should not have existed. It represents a lost branch of technology, a road not taken that vanished for over a millennium. The mind of the maker. A machine this sophisticated is not born from a vacuum. It is the end product of a long tradition of thought and engineering. It is the physical embodiment of a worldview. The Antikythera Mechanism is pure Greek philosophy cast in bronze. It modeled a geocentric universe, the system codified by Ptolemy, but based on theories that were being developed hundreds of years earlier. It perfectly calculated the complex looping paths of planets using the theory of epicycles, the idea that planets moved in small circles that in turn moved along larger circles around the Earth. To build this, the creator needed to be a master of astronomy, mathematics, and mechanical engineering. They would have needed a workshop with precision tools for cutting and shaping the delicate bronze plates and gears. Who could this person have been? The Shipwreck is dated to around 70 to 60 BC, but the mechanism itself is likely older, dating from around 150 to 100 BC, possibly from the Greek island of Rhodes, which was a major center for astronomy and engineering. One name from that era stands out above all others: Archimedes of Syracuse, the great mathematician, physicist, and engineer. While Archimedes himself would have been dead for at least 50 years before the mechanism was built, his influence was immeasurable. The Roman orator Cicero, writing in the 1st century BC, describes 2 such machines built by Archimedes himself. One was a solid sphere that mapped the stars. The other was a planetary model that demonstrated the motion of the sun, moon, and planets, and could even predict eclipses. Cicero wrote that when the Roman general Marcellus sacked Syracuse in 212 BC, he took only two things for himself, these two mechanical spheres. He described them as the work of a genius who could replicate the divine work of nature. Could the Antikythera Mechanism be a later, more advanced version of these legendary devices, created by a student or successor in the school of Archimedes? It seems plausible. The mechanism is a direct descendant of that intellectual tradition. This shifts our perspective entirely. The ancient Greeks weren't just philosophers who sat around debating the nature of the soul. They were builders. They were technologists. They saw the universe as a grand, comprehensible machine, a cosmos, not a chaos, and they had the audacity to try and build a miniature version of it. They sought to capture the logic of the heavens in their hands. But all of this, the celestial tracking, the eclipse prediction, the philosophical blueprint, it all leads to one even more profound function hidden deep within its gears, a function that connects the heavens directly to human civilization in a way we never thought possible. The promised payoff. For decades, the purpose of the Antikythera Mechanism seemed purely astronomical. It was a tool for scientists, priests, and perhaps navigators. It was a map of the heavens. But recent high-resolution CT scans and advanced imaging techniques have revealed the final and perhaps most stunning secret of this ancient computer. The true purpose of the Antikythera Mechanism is about to be revealed. And it's not just about the gods and the stars, it's about humanity. Deep within the inscriptions on the back dial, scientists from the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project found something extraordinary. It wasn't about the moon or the planets, it was a calendar of human events. Specifically, it tracked the 4-year cycle of the Great Pan-Hellenic Games. These were the most important athletic and religious festivals that unified the disparate city-states of the Greek world. There, inscribed in tiny letters, was the name Olympia. The mechanism had a specific setting to track the timing of the ancient Olympic Games. It also tracked the Isthmian, Pythian, and Nemean Games. This revelation is world-changing. This device was not just an elite scientific instrument, it was a social computer. In a world without a unified calendar, where every city-state had its own system for marking time, coordinating these massive, civilization-defining events was a monumental challenge. The Antikythera Mechanism solved that. It linked the cycles of the heavens, the very rhythm of the cosmos, to the cycles of human culture. It told its user not only when the next eclipse would be, but when it was time to travel to Olympia to light the sacred flame. It was the master clock for the entire Greek world, a tool that bound their society together using the fundamental laws of the universe as its guide. This single function transforms the device from a scientific curiosity into a vital cultural artifact. It shows us a society that viewed itself as deeply intertwined with the cosmos. Their lives, their festivals, their very identity was timed by the same gears that moved the sun and moon. The mechanism wasn't just observing the universe, it was using the universe's logic to organize civilization. It was a bridge between the divine and the everyday, a testament to a worldview where there was no separation between science, religion, and society. The profound conclusion. The Antikythera Mechanism is more than just a clever gadget. It's a historical singularity. It forces us to tear up our neat, linear timelines of progress and start again. The knowledge contained within it, the advanced astronomy, the differential gears, the precision engineering, was not supposed to exist in 150 BC. This knowledge surfaced, briefly, shining with incandescent brilliance, and then it vanished. It disappeared from the historical record for nearly 1,500 years. What happened? Why did this technological path become a dead end? The answer is likely lost to time, buried in the ashes of burned libraries and the collapse of empires. The knowledge was fragile, held by a small elite. When the Roman world, which had inherited this Greek genius, began to fracture, this kind of complex, unnecessary knowledge was the first thing to be lost. The skills to make the gears, the astronomical data needed to calibrate them, the very idea of a mechanical cosmos, it all faded into memory, then myth, then oblivion. we are left with a profound and unsettling thought. The Antikythera Mechanism is almost certainly not a unique prototype. As Cicero's writings suggest, there were likely others. This wasn't a singular miracle, it was an example of a forgotten technology. We only have this one because it was sealed in a time capsule by a shipwreck. How many others were melted down for their bronze? How many lie corroding on the ocean floor? What other marvels of ancient engineering have been lost to us forever? The mechanism is a ghost. It's the ghost of a future that could have been. A future where the Industrial Revolution might have begun in the age of Caesar. What would our world look like today if this knowledge had not been lost? If the work of Archimedes and his successors had been built upon century after century? It's a question that bends the mind. The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just teach us about the ancient Greeks. It teaches us about the fragility of knowledge itself. It's a reminder that progress is not inevitable. It can be lost, forgotten, and left to lie in darkness for millennia, waiting for a chance storm and a curious diver to bring it back into the light. It is a single defiant gear, grinding against our certainty, proving that the past is far more mysterious and far more brilliant than we could ever imagine.
The world is full of fascinating paradoxes, isn't it? We hope today's facts truly bent your mind. If you're ready for more daily revelations that challenge the norm, subscribe to Mindbenders. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, keep questioning.